Hey y'all, it's Bailey with Reclaim Grace. I'm so happy you clicked on this video. I have several projects finished and they're giving aged and chippy vibes, which is my all-time favorite. Y'all let me know what y'all think about today's projects. I'm trying to just get some projects finished. I've had an awesome week or month rather in my retail vendor booth. So I need to get some projects pumped out. So y'all motivate me. This heat is still kind of killing me and taking my motivation away, but I'm trying to just make it through it. And these sales are definitely giving me some inspiration. Y'all let me know what y'all's favorite project is, and we're going to get started right now. Here we go with our first project. I am starting us out by trimming a piece of 1/4 inch plywood. I've already taken my measurements for the inside of my frame and I've transferred them on to this piece of plywood. I'm using a straight edge to connect those lines and my circle saw to make the cut. And of course, Roscoe has to walk in right at that moment. I swear he has perfect timing. I shooed him out so I could finish the cut, and now I'm flipping our frame over. Here is the frame that we're working with. It's nothing special, it's just a plastic or resin frame, but we're making sure this insert fits in there well before we move on to the next step, which is prepping this backer board for a piece of decoupage paper. I like to base coat in a lighter color before applying decoupage paper. This is really going to enhance the colors of the paper itself instead of making it blend in. So I'm just going to do one coat of an all-in-one paint before we start applying this gorgeous JRV decoupage paper. Now this is a very large size paper, so do not go into it with thinking you're not going to get any wrinkles. It's near about impossible. So, just don't have that frame of mind. Wrinkles are okay. I'm starting off with a starter strip of my medium. I'm using polyacrylic matte as my decoupage medium. And with this paper, I highly recommend you not misting it. I like using that technique with recycled decoupage paper, but JRV's paper is just a little bit different, and misting it really did not help with the wrinkles. I feel like it created the wrinkles. But either way, once we got that starter strip down, now I'm just working in about 3 to 4 inch sections, applying my medium in about 3 or 4 inch sections, and then I have my hand in a little plastic baggie and I'm pressing that paper into the wet medium. Just taking my time working section by section until we get down to this last little bit. I will note I let my paper fully dry before coming back over the top of it with another coat of that polyacrylic matte. So now I'm cleaning my frame really well with some Windex, and I'm going to take it outside and apply 2 coats of this shellac because we're going to be adding milk paint over this plastic frame. Here is a color you do not see me use often, but I love it. It is Birdie. It's a nice blue-green color. I'm going to mix up 4 scoops of powder with 4 scoops of water, mix that together well, and let it sit to the side and thicken for about 15 minutes. Now let's start painting our frame. Now with milk paint, your first coat is going to be kind of scary because it is very sheer and transparent. But just get that first coat on. I'm really making sure I'm letting the paint flow and all the details, and sometimes even pull up in the corners because I love the character that causes when using milk paint. So we're going to get this first coat applied, and then I'm going to zap it dry with my heat gun. I always recommend doing that if you really want to force that crackle and chip and paint. I've probably had 50 to 100 comments recently asking to see Roscoe. So here's your little fella right here. He's becoming famous up here. I love that. So now we're coming in with our second coat and look at the coverage. It's already a lot better. I did go ahead and apply a third coat on this frame, but it wasn't necessarily needed in not really. Two coats and it was looking pretty full coverage. We're going to let that dry fully, and without sealing the milk paint in with anything else, I'm coming right on top of it with Fusion's Agent Wax. This is really going to deepen the color. As I'm using my wax brush, it's knocking off some of that chipping paint, and then I'm going to come in with a blue shop towel and buff off the excess and just wipe it in. As I'm wiping, some more paint's chipping off, which is great. I love that gold peeking through. So now we're going to jump back to our artwork. I'm going to sand off the excess edges with a piece of folded up sandpaper. This will create nice crisp lines. Now let's put it all back together. As you can see, this piece of plywood was warping a bit, so I'm going to add some extra supports and just push that plywood insert down well before coming in with my framing gun. These shoot little tacks into the frame to secure the insert, and it's one of my favorite tools. It's linked in my Amazon store if you are interested. And now let's clean up that back by adding a piece of contractor's paper with my hot glue gun, just going around the edge with a bead of glue and then pressing that paper into the hot glue. Then we will sand off the excess paper. Then the last thing we need to do is add a hanging hardware. Here is a kit that I get off Amazon. It has a little bit of everything in it, and that's why I like it for different weights. But I'm just using the one screw little D-ring here and pulling that wire taut and wrapping it around itself, cutting off the excess, and this piece is done. I absolutely love how this project came out. I priced it for $69, and everything I put this paper on seems to sell. If y'all are interested in a piece of this JRV rice paper, I have several available on my website, and y'all look at that crackle. I love how this project came out. What do y'all think about this one? Our next project is a little side table, or it could be a little plant stand. I picked up on the 301 yard sale. I paid $5 for it, and it's solid wood. So I thought that was a pretty good deal. We're going to start off, I've already cleaned it well, and we're going to give it a good sand. This had layers and layers of paint on it. So, and a lot of drip marks. So I got off any peeling paint, sanded down the drip marks, and gave everything a good scuff sand, and then cleaned it again. And now we're going to come in with Bayberry by Fusion. I just wanted to get a nice one color base coat on this piece that we could come down to in a later step. And I thought this green color would be the perfect base color. So I just applied one nice coat all over this little side table. Next, I mixed up some milk paint. This is O Olive. I mixed equal parts powder with equal parts water. Let that thicken for a little bit as I am applying some wax to our little side table. I wanted this piece to be chippy and old looking, and Ginger Chick Rehab has me hooked on this little beeswax bar. So this, I'm just using it on the edges mainly, but I also kind of went heavy on the flat parts as well. This wax bar has been sitting in my hot workshop, so it was kind of melted and it applied, I think, a little too easily. So I might have applied a little bit too much wax, so it turns out extra, extra chippy, which is always fine in my book. So now our milk paint has thickened up nice. I really like the consistency I just showed you. I like mine a little bit thicker. And we're going to start applying our first layer. Now, it seems O Olive has really good coverage. I don't know. It just seems to have better coverage than other colors. That's why it's one of my favorite colors to use in the Sweet Pickins line. And it's just a gorgeous color altogether. But as I'm applying our first layer, I'm trying to have light pressure so I do not disturb that beeswax. So gentle pressure all over getting this first coat on. I let it dry naturally because I did not want to use the heat gun and re-melt the wax. Now I'm coming in with my second coat. I'm going to lightly mist the surface first so my milk paint doesn't grab as much as I'm applying it. And this piece just took 2 coats to get the coverage I was looking for. Here we are with both coats of paint dry. I have some flaking paint on top, and I'm trying to show you, do you see this tonal difference here where it kind of looks like it's still wet? Well, that's where I'm going to scrape. That is the wax underneath the paint. I'm just taking a metal scraper tool like that you use for like drywall and scraping the milk paint up to expose that bayberry color. Like I said, I maybe went a little heavy with the wax, but I still love all of its chippy goodness. I love these little scalloped edges on this side table, and we're going to chip all this paint back down until we feel like we got all the wax off. Milk paint does need to be sealed, so I'm going to use my Fusion Agent Wax just to bring a little bit of age and depth to that color. I really like Fusion Agent Wax because it's very easy to use. You just buff it on with a wax brush and then wipe it off with a rag or a shop towel. That's it for this project. I priced her for $47, and y'all let me know about what you think about this one. Here is our next project. It is a redo. I used milk paint on it a couple years ago, and the milk paint has pretty much flaked all the way off. I have some bleeding all over the place. So I've already taken my hands for the most part and got any loose paint off. I'm going to remove these hardware pulls. I'm going to reuse them in a later step. So I'm just going to take them off and set them to the side. The little pieces of paper I stuck behind them has actually stuck to the project. So I'm going to take some sandpaper and sand those off and just give the whole project a good scuff sand. And then we're going to wipe it down before coming in with our new favorite little item, the beeswax bar. I'm going to just drag this wax over the edges and corners mainly, hitting some of the flat areas all over our little organizer. I decided to go a different route this time. I'm going to use Paint Couture's Autumn Sage chalk paint. This is a somewhat new to me brand, so I'm still, deciding on it really, but it really went on smoothly and I really liked the coverage. I'm going to apply 2 coats to this little cubby organizer, and y'all, I absolutely adore drawers, cubbies, little organizer projects. They're one of my favorite things to make over, but the drooling part is having to paint the inside of the cubbies. But you'll get it done. Just take your time. Try not to get paint all over you. I'm the world's worst for having paint on my hands. So here we are applying our first coat. We're going to let that dry, go ahead and apply our second coat. And I really like how you can see like the layers of different paints. So now our paint is dry. I was trying to scrape it with my little plastic burnishing tool, but that wasn't working too well. So I grabbed a piece of 120 used sandpaper, and we're going to distress those edges, pulling all that wax back until we like the way it looks. We are going to be adding a paint inlay to the sides of our little organizer. So I'm going to get the paint side of the inlays misted, set them to the side. I totally missed recording applying the inlay, but I'm using the matte polyacrylic as my medium to apply the inlay to. You just apply the medium, apply the paint inlay into the medium, wet the top of the paint inlay, and then you let it dry again. Now I'm remisting the dry paint inlay. I'm going to give that water a little bit to soak into the paper, get any excess water off before I start picking a corner and peeling that paint inlay back. Now this did peel up some of the green paint in some areas, but that's just because I didn't get the wax off all the way. It just chipped back down where the wax was. But I really liked the way that looked actually. So now our inlays are fully dry. It's actually the next day. I'm coming in with Dixie Belt Flat Clear Coat, and I'm going to gently go over the top of my inlays to seal them, and I'm going to go ahead and seal up the rest of the project as well. If you are nervous about using a paint inlay, I highly recommend getting the Floriography IOD paint inlay for your first one to try out. It comes with lots of little label designs that's perfect for beginners. And I do have a few still available on my website if y'all are interested. But now we're moving on to adding a little bit of age to our project with some Fusion's Aging Wax. I'm about out. I need to order me some more. This was probably my most used product in my craft room. I'm going to buff that all over inside the little cubbies as well, and then wipe off any excess. And then we're going to reattach our little hardware pulls. I am a huge fan of these library card pulls. They're just some of my favorites, especially if it has something to do with like a little drawer. Here is a little ephemera packet I picked up off of Temu a long time ago. It just has little receipt papers in a little booklet. I just picked one out, and I'm going to cut these to size to fit in our little label holders. Other than that, this project is done. I think it is an awesome transformation. I love how it still has lots of age and character. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this one. I priced it for $27. So here is a project that's been in the works for months. You'll see why in a later step, but this is a wine holder that I'm turning into a rolling pin display. So I did not care for the top that came on it. Oh, by the way, I picked this up at a flea market for, I believe, $10. But we are removing the top that it came with. I just wasn't a fan. So I'm removing all the screws and bolts holding the the wine holder legs off so I can remove this base piece as well, and we're going to set that to the side. I gave everything a good clean, and I took the metal base out and I'm giving it a coat of some hammered black spray paint. I just thought it would look a little nicer in a darker color. I just did one coat, having to flip it the upside down way to just make sure I painted all the little nooks and crannies of this piece. So here is going to be our new top for our little bar table. I'm giving it a good sand, really just to round over those edges. This board size is a 1 by 12 by 6, so it's the perfect size for our little skinny narrow table. After I got it dusted off, we're going to do a paint wash to stain this board. I misted the board very well, and now I'm coming in with just a taupe all-in-one paint color, applying it all over in the direction of the wood grain, and then I'm going to take a blue shop towel and wipe off any excess, making sure I'm wiping in the direction of the grain. Now I'm going to start reattaching things. I'm going to make sure this bracket piece is centered, and then we will get that screwed down to our tabletop. Now I have it laying flat on the floor, and I'm going to get this base piece back up here and reattached with the bolts that came out of it. And then the last thing we need to do is seal up this tabletop. I applied 3 nice size layers of polyacrylic matte to give it extra protection. Other than that, this piece is done. I am pricing this table to sell, but I ain't going to be mad if it sits for a little while because I really want to see this display full of rolling pins. I collected about 18 rolling pins before I took this piece to my booth, and I am still on the hunt for some more. Every single one of these rolling pins I painted the handles on to create aged, antique, vintage rolling pins. Some of them are older pieces, they just won't paint it, and some of them are pretty newer. But I think they look great in this display. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this one. I did price the table itself for $97. Here is our last project for today's video. This is an enamel top table. I paid $20 for it, and the top had a little bit of wear to it, but the table, when we get finished with it, isn't going to really look much different because I want the base to still be aged. So we're starting off with filling some holes. I'm going to use Bondo. This comes in like a 2-part component. The putty itself, and then I'm adding a pea-size amount of this blue cream hardener. Going to mix that together well, and then we got to work very quickly. This stuff gets rock hard in a matter of minutes, so you don't want to mix up too much at once. You kind of want to work in sections. This job does not have to look pretty. Just get the putty in the hole and then let it dry. I'm also filling up the bottoms of the legs. They had large holes where something used to stick down in them. I'm going to add some new protectors in a later step, so I needed to fill up this large hole on all 4 legs. And also, all 4 legs had this gouge in each leg that I filled up first. I'm not sure what that was from, but I thought the table would look a lot better if those were filled in. So here's the table. There's the hole I'm talking about. And here's the, I don't know, crack, whatever it is. That's all 4 legs look like that. So we're going to get them all filled up. Within 10 minutes, it's dry, so I'm coming in with a 120 grit sandpaper, and we're going to start sanding that Bondo smooth. Now we've taken the table outside, and I'm going to shellac the wood section of our table. This is going to seal in that old paint and also seal in the Bondo areas so our paint lays on a little bit more smoother. I applied 2 coats all over the wood section. Now I'm taking some gloss white enamel spray paint and a piece of cardboard to protect the wood area, and I'm starting to just freshen up that enamel top. Now, I debated on doing this, but in the long run, it looks a lot better and it still has character. So I applied 2 coats of that spray paint and let that dry fully. Sorry, that's Roscoe shaking his big ears. And now we're going to mix up a new paint combo. This is olive and artichoke sweet Pickens milk paint, and I'm going to do equal parts. So I did 2 scoops of olive and 2 scoops of artichoke with 4 scoops of water. Going to mix that together well and let it sit to the side and thicken for about 15 minutes. As that milk paint is thickening, I'm going to grab my beeswax bar yet again, and I'm going to hit the edges and corners of the wood surface of our table base and some of the flat areas as well. I really wanted this piece to be chippy and aged because it is an older piece, and who does not love a chippy enamel top table? So now we're starting applying our first layer of milk paint. I'm being careful cutting in around the top, but I have a wet rag handy where if I get any on the spray paint, I can just wipe it off. But I did apply 2 coats all over the wooden part of the table base. And y'all, I have to say, this is probably my new favorite paint combo. Like, this green is everything. It's not too 70s looking like artichoke is, and just adds a little bit more of a deeper color to the olive color. It's probably my new favorite. Y'all are going to see this color combination a lot more. So here's how we're looking after the 2 coats of paint. It's looking much better. And now we're going to come back with a little scraper tool and hit these wet looking areas. That is the wax that has not let the milk paint stick to the wood that we painted. So I'm just using this scraper tool, and I'm going to scrape back all those areas and get a nice chippy look. Next, let's add some protectors for our legs. This is a kit. It comes with like 24 that I picked up on Amazon, and it has that little tack in it that you can just hammer into a wooden item. It goes in very easily, and I'm going to attach these little glider protectors on all 4 legs. The last thing I'm going to do is seal our milk paint with some Fusion's Agent Wax. This is going to deepen that color even more and bring out all that yummy texture in this older wood. I applied a nice size amount all over, and then I'm going to wipe back with a blue shop towel. And y'all, just look at this difference. The color, or the side on the right, of course, has not been waxed, and on the left side has been waxed. Other than that, this table is finished. I went around my market to see if I can find a similar enamel top table, and they seemed like in my area they were selling for around $100 if they did not have a drawer in the center. Mine doesn't, so I priced it for $125. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this makeover down in the comments. And that's all I have for y'all today, my friends. I really hope y'all enjoyed these projects. Y'all be sure to go down in the comments and let me know which project is your favorite. And if you got any inspiration from today's video, hit that like button. Be sure to leave me a comment and consider subscribing if you have not already. Thank y'all for spending your time with me today. Be sure to hop over to my website. I've added lots of new items up there recently, and I hope to have the Sweet Pickins milk paint line up there very soon. I'll talk to y'all in the comments. Bye.